tomorrow. Summer recess is in the books, and lawmakers have had a big agenda ahead of them. Some of the issues that they are facing include funding for Zika virus research, passing a spending measure to prevent another government shutdown, the possible impeachment of IRS Commissioner John Koskinen, as well as an investigation into that $400 million payment to Iran. You thought you had a tough work week ahead of you. Well, David Drucker, a senior political correspondent for the Washington Examiner, welcome to you. Thanks for talking this through with us today. You spent a lot of time on the Hill, so fill us in on what we can expect to see happen this fall when Congress goes back to work, and possibly what we won't see happen.
Yeah, not much. Look, it's an election year, and it's a very big, tight election. And so what you're going to see is a lot of messaging bills. Both parties are going to try and drive home their Election Day message. We're going to have early voting start in the next couple of days. Absentee voting, early voting will get started soon after. And so the election is going to overshadow everything. The one thing they have to deal with is spending by the end of September. You'll see a short-term bill because Democrats don't have any incentive to give Republicans a long-term deal, figuring that they really hope to take over the White House and the Senate. Republicans, for their own part, don't want to get involved in any sort of shutdown situation. And so everybody's going to basically operate, Laura, in a get-out-of-town, real easy kind of a mode. The only thing I think we could see is a deal on Zika funding, just because that's front and center, and it's Florida, and that's a huge state.
Well, right, and I was going to ask you, a lot of has changed in the fight against Zika since Congress met over a month and a half ago. So has anything changed specifically that you can tell us in the fight to fund it?
I don't really think so. Look, I think Republicans who control both houses of Congress passed a bill. The Democrats didn't like it. I think Republicans are going to continue to press their case. And if Democrats feel like it's worth their while to oppose the bill, they will. But if anything were to change, this is the one area where I could see it changing, just because Florida politically is a very important state and Zika is scaring a lot of people. Other than that, you're just not going to see a lot done. I mean, the one advantage Republicans have is because they control both houses, they can convene committee hearings and investigate a lot of Hillary Clinton's problems with the emails and the Clinton Foundation, and they can try and keep that alive and work sort of in tandem with the Trump campaign. But Democrats can do a little damage of their own. I mean, look, when you're on the Hill, you can drive a lot of messaging. You can propose a lot of bills. You can't convene committee hearings and investigate, but I'm sure they're going to try and make Republicans answer for the different things Donald Trump says here and there, especially his immigration message, which they think benefits them, and there's some evidence to believe that. And that's always, every 4 years, what this period of time is about. Don't forget, you have a lot of tough Senate races, a lot of House races are in play. Not enough to change the makeup of the House ultimately, but enough that people want to get home and campaign and protect their job, and that's just how it's going to go down.
And Congress keeps passing a series of short-term bills, spending bills to prevent government shutdowns. Is there any chance they could pass anything more than that, something, longer term to get us through?
No, and no.
No.
And again, you have to look at well, first of all, look, the election is just 8 weeks away now. It's almost 60 days away. But look at the incentives here. If you're a Democrat and you're really hopeful that Hillary Clinton's going to win the White House, why give Republicans a long-term deal? If you're really hopeful you're going to win the Senate, why give Republicans a long-term deal? Because a Republican House negotiating with a Democratic Senate is going to give Democrats a much better spending bill than they would get if it was a all-Republican negotiation and then send it up to President Obama for a long-term sign. And so that's just why you're not going to see any of that. And there's just no incentive to take any big risks and anger voters back home who are already angry with you, theoretically,
right,
and when you're on the ballot in just a few days.
And David, I've got less than a minute left. House conservatives are looking to press ahead with impeaching IRS Commissioner John Koskinen over the destruction of the agency emails and what has been called misleading testimony on whether the tax agency, before his arrival, improperly scrutinized conservative groups looking for that nonprofit status. What are you hearing on that front?
So I don't know the status of this yet. I mean, this is something that a lot of Republicans in the House have been pressing, but it hasn't gotten anywhere yet. But this is the kind of thing that in theory could happen because it would make a lot of Republican voters happy. I don't think Democrats would get up in arms, Democratic voters, if you will, if the head of the IRS was sent packing. So if they can fit it in the agenda, it just sort of, it depends on what Republicans want the focus to be. It can't be everywhere, so they're going to have to choose. They only really have about 3 weeks to get all of this done before they're done for good until after the election, and there just may not be enough time.
All right, David Drucker, we got to leave it there. Thanks so much. It's certainly going to be an interesting fall. We'll look forward to hearing from you again.
Thanks, Laura.
Thanks.
Tensions rising in one European town as more and more